I got sent to prison for domestic violence. It was a horrendous ordeal for her, which probably affects her for the rest of her life. Just sorry, cut it. Nah, fucking doesn't. Even if I was to say sorry, she wouldn't accept it. Completely understand. I'm deeply remorseful for it, but there's nothing I can do to change that. The only thing I can do to change that is make sure I don't repeat them actions moving forward.
All right, welcome to episode 11, Brothers of Purpose podcast. Today we have Don McClusky with us, really good friend of mine. I've been looking to get you on for a long time, mate. You've been an integral part of my recovery journey. My day one was your day one. So it's exciting to get you on. I know this is a big thing for you. It's a big change from what you're normally accustomed to. But I'm excited, mate, and I think it's going to be good to hear your story. Welcome, bro.
Yeah, thank you for having us. Like you just said there, it's a bit of a change for me, it is, because in the past, the only time I've sat across the table from two men asking us questions would have been a piece interview, you know what I mean? So
yeah.
This is a little different to what I'm used to, but I'm here to tell my story, I'm here to be honest, and hopefully someone will get something from this.
Love that, bro. Love that.
100%. Do you want to start by just saying a little bit about your upbringing? I know you've told me quite a few bits, but I think it's going to be good for you to start there. Let's start at the beginning, eh?
Yeah, my upbringing, it's because a lot of people, on the face value, it looked like I had a good upbringing, happy home life, because I was good at hiding it. But no one truly knows what goes on behind closed doors.
Yeah.
I've got an amazing mum. I adore my mum. Everyone who knows us knows that. She was an amazing woman. My dad, fundamentally, was a good man, but had the illness of alcoholism, which made him a different man at times, do you know what I mean? So, if everyone met my dad on face value, he's a good dad. He's there when he needs to be. But when you see my dad after 8 bottles of brown ale, and he's punching you black and blue and he's swinging your mum about the house, and smashing the house up, they don't see that side of him, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But on face value, I had a good upbringing, but there was traumatic times. I wouldn't say I had a terrible childhood, because there's a lot of happy memories I've got from it.
Yeah.
But there's also some dark, deep memories I've got. Like, there's certain events that stick out in my mind. Like, I was present when my mum and dad actually split up.
Yeah.
And my mum took me and my brother out of the house.
That's painful, that, isn't it?
To take away from my dad, because she thought she was keeping us safe. But me, being at the age of 4, I could tear up thinking about it. Not wanting to leave me dad.
Yeah.
And I was more of a dad's boy. Although I wasn't the best at times, I idolised my dad.
Yeah, man.
And I always remember walking down the garden path and pulling my hand out my mum's hand and running back into my dad.
Yeah.
And he was sat in his armchair crying his eyes out, and I just says, Dad, I'll never leave you.
Take your time,
Man, that resonates so much with me. You know, I had a similar thing where I remember my dad dropping to his knees when we were leaving. My mum was putting us on a train to bring us back to the UK, and just seeing him drop down, and it's my dad, you know the story, my dad died of alcoholism as well. It doesn't stop you loving them. They're your dads. And I think, at least for me, when I got further along my journey understanding my addiction, I had a different view on the whole situation. I understand our dads they had a disease. They had the same disease we have. But you got to remember what we're doing. Like, they couldn't make them any more proud of us.
Yeah.
No, you know how we're recovering.
100% I do agree with that. Through doing the programme that I've done and getting recovery myself, it's helped us accept a lot of things from my childhood regarding my dad. I understand he was ill. So, yes, he was guilty of the actions he did, but that wasn't my dad. That was my dad in drink. Yeah. My dad was powerless to drink, just like I was powerless to cocaine and alcohol myself. Yeah. There's actions I've done that are shameful, horrendous. I done them, but it wasn't the real me that done them. And that's not me trying to get out of it. Yes, I'm guilty. I've held my hands up. I've been in prison for what I've done. I take full accountability for it. Do you know what I mean? There's nothing I can do to change it. If I could, I would. But at the same time, it wasn't the real me.
Yeah.
I was suffering a serious illness that I wasn't aware I was suffering at the time.
Yeah.
100%.
And I think as well, like, it is so easy for people to judge your character and your personality. We were saying this on the other episode. It's so easy for people to judge your character and personality, not knowing that you have this disease.
Oh yeah, it's people will only see what you show them, and with the disease, I didn't know this was a disease until I went through recovery. You know, so I question myself. I question whether I was a good person. I'm sure you've had those moments.
Yeah.
But I think this is why this is a powerful message for you to get across, because the majority of people are still going to be skeptical. You know, oh, he's only a few months into his recovery. They're not seeing the man that I see every day, the work you do. So I think it means a lot for me to see you getting this across as well, brother. 100%.
I would agree with what you're saying there as well. Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah, I'm 8 months clean and sober, but I was in 14 years of active addiction, and then 14 years of caused chaos, fear, terror. I've done some terrible things, so I can't just expect people to think, oh, well, he hasn't had a drink, or he hasn't had a life for 8 months, and he hasn't been arrested for 4 years, oh, he's changed. I can't expect that of people to think that of us.
Yeah.
If people still want to see us as the old me, then that's fair enough, that's their opinion. I'm not here to change opinions, I'm just here to tell my story. It'll be selfish of us. Just because I've changed, it doesn't mean people's opinions will change.
Yeah, with time.
If I didn't want people to think that of us, I shouldn't have done what I've done.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Actions have consequences, and unfortunately some of the actions I've displayed have lifelong consequences.
Yes.
This is true, but this is everyone's first go at life, which is what I always come back to.
Yeah.
Whether it's yourself, your parents, it's everyone's first attempt. And you will make mistakes, and you won't get everything right. But the fact that you're able to hold your hands up and look at the things that haven't went well, and things that haven't panned out as you maybe hoped, the sheer fact that you're able to reflect on it and take what you can, take the lessons from it, is, for me, quite an amazing thing. Because how many people do make mistakes? How many people do go down the wrong path? And it becomes almost like what they're most proud of. You know? There's a small percentage of people who, you know, are going down the wrong route in life, and that's now what they're most proud of. So the fact that you've realised that, and you're brave and courageous enough to actually admit where you've went wrong and actually want to do something about it, I've got nothing but respect for that, me personally.
No, I agree completely. I think, you know, I've said for quite a long time, I don't think you realise the impact you have on suffering addicts. There's so many characteristics that you have that I don't have, that allow you to connect to people. How you connect to in the rooms, the meetings we go to, how many people want you to be their sponsor. This is because I think your message carries so much value. So I think this is going to come across in this. I think for me personally, what the journey I'm going through is the journey of how trauma related and how the role that played in my active addiction. Just today, I was going through a therapy session where we were uncovering that. I find it exciting. I find it slightly painful, but it's another journey of self-development. Was there any key moments throughout your childhood that you've known that you could put towards leading you down that path or setting you along that path?
Oh, absolutely, without a doubt. Several incidents, really. Start with the first one, and probably a lot of people's biggest one is not having the right role model or father figure in your life.
Yeah.
I had a dad, and look, he passed away coming up 2 years, and I miss him every day. But I cannot sit here and say he was perfect, because he wasn't. But I'm not going to sit here and say he was a terrible dad because he wasn't either. Do you know what I mean? But like we say, we all make mistakes.
Yep.
So my dad wasn't present for a lot of my childhood. He was in the pub propping up the end of the bar, and when he come home, it was hell on. So I looked for father figures in other people. I had my mum's brother, my uncle Philip. He was a crucial part of my young childhood. He was always there. He always made us smile. He was always reliable. Then he took his own life when I was 9 years old. So again, my father figure was gone. Then my mum had me a partner, my stepdad, who I knew from a young age. Again, was fantastic. He'd done everything with us that my dad didn't. And then whatever my stepdad didn't do with us, my dad did. So I had a healthy balance with them both. But again, he had an affair and left my mum and me and abandoned one Christmas Eve. So again, father figure took away.
Gone.
I've got an older brother, Rob, who I love and adore. We've never seen eye to eye for years through my behaviours. He's done nothing wrong, but he was just a lot older. So when I turned to him, it was at his part of life where he was moving out of the home and going to live with his partner. So it was just me and my mum. And my mum done her best to play mum and dad, but we all know mums try the hardest, but they can't be dad,
They
can
can't
they?
replicate dad. No.
Because dad's there to put the boundaries in place. Dad's there to instill the discipline. Mums are soft-hearted. My mum knew nothing but to be soft-hearted, so I knew I could get away with what I could get away with because I was my mum's blue-eyed boy.
Yeah.
So she'd done her best, and she blames herself for the way I turned out and the things I've done, but she's got no fault at all. So when I moved on to my other father figures, they were in the criminal life, they were the older people around us.
Yeah.
I had no other choice. I lived in Gateshead. Mike, you know yourself.
Yeah.
It's not the most savoury of places to be living as a young lad, especially when you're 12, 13, hitting puberty and you're going out to discover what the world is.
Yeah. And especially if you've not had that role model so far, because you'll look for it in these individuals that you come across.
Yeah. The most consistent role model I had and father figure was my dad. But unfortunately, most of the behaviour I seen from my dad was getting full to the brim of alcohol and then lashing out in violence.
Yeah.
So that's all I knew to do from a young age, which is then what I continue to do as I got older. But talking about trauma, the other major, it's 2 incidents, but of the same nature. So 11-year-old, I was sexually assaulted on public transport. So that was, it wasn't that, I'm saying it wasn't that serious. It wasn't that, should I say, extreme of a sexual assault. I didn't understand what it was. And then when I realised I got to grips with what it was as I got a little bit older, twist my head up. But the real thing for me was being raped when I was 13. But it didn't just stop there. So I'd be in the metro centre with my mates, was getting the bus home. I was at my dad's. He was in the house drinking, but my dad was still strict with curfews. I was already past my curfew because I was a little twat and I was trying to push my limits. So hopefully my dad fell asleep pissed and I can sneak in and he'll not know. So I was already late, got off the bus. I had to take a certain route, which I was always told never to take, but it was a quicker way to get home. Took it to where I was grabbed from behind by a man, dragged into a short alleyway, and I was raped. But that never ever come to light till the age of 17. I kept that with us. Because when I went home to my dad, it was hard because my dad is a lot older and he was of the generation. It's not my opinions and it's not how I look at things. I'm just saying how the generation was. Didn't agree with homosexuality. So in my young head, because that had just happened to us, my dad would see me as that and wouldn't accept us as a son because he was just, there's generations like that there is, unfortunately. It's very narrow-minded, but people were brought up like that in that day, so I couldn't tell my dad. And when I got in, he hadn't fell asleep. He was awake. Well, I'd broke my curfew. So not only had I just been raped, but then I was given a hiding by my dad for being late. And all I always remember being in pain, as you can imagine, in every different place of your body, including private places, and crying myself to sleep. But like I say, as my dad being that man, I couldn't tell no one. I told my mum would tell my dad. I couldn't have my dad know that had happened to us because I didn't want my dad disowning us. It was hard enough getting my dad's approval as it was.
That must have been so tough, mate.
My dad, he was loving at times, but he wasn't one of them that give you much praise. But I think that comes from he didn't have a good relationship with his dad. Like we say, you can only parent the way you were parented because that's how you learn. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, that was a massive thing for me because I carried that for years. And that's when there was a significant change for me because I was quite a gentle-natured child. I remember my mum always used to say, when I was a little lad, 6 and 7, people used to say, I'd take him home with us, my mum, and give us 10 of him any day. He's no bother. But when I got to that age, especially 13, you're trying to figure out who you are and then you have a traumatic thing like that. It filled us with fear. I used to pride myself on not having fear. It's the worst thing that happens. I'm not scared of nothing. Really, I've learned I was riddled with fear. I ran on fear. Instead of dealing with my own fear, I fed off other people's. So the only way I knew how to deal with that was how my dad dealt with his problems, and that was by a change of mind state and violence. So that's when my drug taking started, and that's when I started fighting constantly. And one thing to another just led from there. So
how quick was the change from sort of that point into pretty severe criminality at one point?
it wasn't an instant change.
Yeah,
Do you know
yeah.
what I mean? I
Yeah.
was still a 13-year-old child.
Yeah.
A 13-year-old, you're not capable of doing much. But
Yeah.
there was a change in us. Should I say I become a lot more rebellious at school. I was getting into a little more scrapes and scuffs.
Lashing out.
Yeah, my attitude was changing. I would never, ever, ever disrespect my mum or talk to her badly. But it started.
Yeah.
My mum couldn't understand why. But obviously I was carrying a secret with us. But yeah, it all started with getting in trouble at school, having fights at school, detentions. Basically just... Because I knew what had happened to me inside. I think could people see this? Did people know about us? Could they sense it?
Yeah.
So I would do whatever it took for people to laugh at us, like us, and to become the centre of attention and the most popular kid. So disruptive in class, kicked out, detention, suspended, fighting. But I would always pick fights with older lads in the bigger years because I thought, well, I'll tell you how I'll prove to myself I'm a man. I'll fight bigger people.
Yeah. And you probably beat them as well.
yeah, it did go that way. Apart from one, if Kitchen was here, he'd tell you about it because he witnessed it. I decided to pick on a year 11 when I was in year 8, who was about 20 stone heavier than us. And he just flopped on us, took us over a fence, and I was just sandwiched underneath him. That one didn't go too well, but yeah.
No, mate, I really appreciate you going into that. I think that's powerful stuff you're talking about there, and I've known about the story, and I think it's good to hear you talk about it. I think just from a separate note, man, your mum's gonna be so proud of you. You know that.
No, it's been nice the past 8 months in recovery. My mum watching me journey.
Yeah, I bet.
And just hearing little comments off her. Do you know what I mean? And telling us that she's proud of us. But I think the one that really hit us the most and touched us was the other day she was going out for her birthday with a girl from work, and I went, you're going out in town for a meal, and it's not like you because you never done any of them things. And she went, but you know what it is, son, I've got a peaceful life now because you're the man you are now. I can start living my life.
Oh, man,
I
that's
thought,
sweet.
now it is, my ma's life was on stop because I was my mum's world. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I never thought about that. She had no life.
Yeah.
At all. It was either wondering if I was coming home, waiting for the police to ring to say I was in the cells.
Yeah.
Or on several occasions, the police bursting through her door. Do you know, she's 50-odd-year-old. She's on beta blockers through my behaviour because her heart rate used to go that much with anxiety because of the police.
But that's when you're in the active addiction, you know, I've said this a number of times on this podcast, you become the best manipulator, the best liar, and you're incredibly selfish. That's just the traits of an addict. So you've transformed all of them. Yeah, I remember when I first day into rehab, they said, look, don't worry, you've only got to change one thing. I was like, oh, that's good. What's that? Everything. That's how great. Yeah, everything. And you've done that, mate. You know, in these last 8 months, you've changed so many parts of your life. You've grown in so many areas, and it's incredible to see. It really is. Like, well done.
I imagine it's been a massively humbling experience for you, has it?
Yeah, it has. Because, like Alex has just said there, in addiction, you become selfish, self-centered, manipulative, lying, and we become the biggest victims on earth. Do you know what I mean? So,
but you were also the fucking big guy around town. Like, you used to walk in a fucking room and people terrified you, right?
In the local pubs, yeah. I was a professional pub emptier. I'd walk in and people going, fuck that. Do you know what I mean?
So you've gone from that world, and also a world where through some of the work you did, you had a lot of money available. So
times I did until the addiction grabbed a hold of us, and then I had to be the poorest fucking person that was selling drugs on earth.
Yeah, fair point. So what's been hardest about the adjustment, would you say? Because I know what I think your answer is going to be, because you've made the adjustment pretty seamlessly. But has there been any of that? Has there been times when, you know, you thought
my ego was a big one, because like I said, I'd built up this false pretense in this character that I was someone that you don't mess with. I'll do anything I need to put you down. I don't take shit. Do you know what I mean? Like, I used to pride myself on people watching me as a cracker. I used to think, That's that. People like us. But my mum used to say people didn't like you, dirty, because they didn't want you to hit. They didn't want you to hit them 30 minutes later when you've had a line or a drink. Because I would turn on a sixpence. Do you know what I mean? I'd become unpredictable as soon as I put alcohol and drugs into us. So ego, no. Thinking, fuck. What if people don't respect us anymore? Because I'm not out and about in the local areas where I was usually seen. I'm not causing chaos. What if people stop respecting us? What if, but realistically, people's respect I was worried about, it's not worth having that respect.
100%.
Do you know what I mean? Now I'd rather have the respect of like-minded people like yourselves.
Yes, mate.
Or the respect of my mum. Or the respect of my brother. My brother didn't talk to us because of who I was. And I used to blame him. I used to say he's a miserable twat, he's this, he's that. It's not. It's just because he's a decent bloke. And he he would never condone the way I went on, but I couldn't see that because for me, for the 14 years I was in addiction, I never done a thing wrong. It was everyone else's fault.
Yeah.
It was my dad's fault. It was my upbringing. It was the trauma I suffered. It was the situation I had in my life. But the situation I had in my life was through my own actions. So, do you know what I mean? Like, no matter what I'd done wrong, my excuse was, but you didn't go through what I went through as a child.
Yeah.
Has it been hard explaining or like talking about some of this stuff to people who have like been bubble wrapped? Because that's been one of my biggest challenges. Like anything that I've been through, that's maybe caused trauma or whatever. It's quite a challenge to talk about it with people who have been bubble wrapped.
Yeah, I get that.
For me, it wasn't because my life's been full of trauma. And then my life being involved in what I was involved with criminals, like criminality, fighting all the time, drinking drugs. Because of the areas we come from, like, that's quite a normal life.
It is.
So when I'm talking to people who haven't experienced that life, I don't find it difficult. I find it confusing how they don't understand what I'm on about, because I'm like, well, that's normal life. And they're like, it's really not. I'm like, take yourself in the gator for 24 hours and see what life is.
Yeah. It's like they haven't experienced this, so they don't know it exists, basically. Yeah,
I experienced very similar in the Cotswolds.
Someone nicked me Bay of Hill.
What were you saying?
No, I find it interesting because it's different walks of life.
Well,
it's different walks of life, you know. So
for me, this is one of the beautiful things in recovery. I can directly relate to situations I've been through that people can't understand or comprehend why I did it. You know, I remember when I first sat my mum down. This wasn't when I recovered. This was when I first tried to recover. This is a few years ago, and I was running a company, and I said to myself one night, I said, right, well, either the coke's going to kill me or I'm going to do it myself. So I had to sit my mum down. And this is coming from a woman who had married an addict and an alcoholic, but had lived an incredibly straight, innocent life from that regard herself. So for me to sit down and say, look, I've got a serious problem with cocaine, which I am very confident that she was aware of, but she had the blinkers on. I think it was pretty fucking hard to not know that I'm up 24/7 with fucking plates as eyeballs. So it was a real learning curve for everyone, I think. But what I will say is the people around me took the time to try and understand it, because it was me trying to get better. I think that's the key thing. The right people, the people you should have around you, will listen. That's all. You can't expect them to relate, but you don't want someone to try and relate. That's annoying. It can come from a good place, but you don't want someone to try and relate to a situation if they can't. Just have someone listen. One of my favorite sayings is sometimes you just want someone to sit in the mud with you. And that's it, right?
Yeah.
You don't want someone to try and say, oh yeah, no, I get that, I've done this. And you just want someone to sit there and talk to you and just listen. That's the most important thing. So, and I think, but also what I realized is you telling your story, you telling yours, me telling mine, this helps people, and we're going to give information to people that they might not otherwise have. And the right people are going to take it in, it's going to broaden them. You know, my mum now does a little workout every morning. You know, she's taking creatine and stuff, they take stuff in.
It's a reminder that real shit does happen.
100%.
You know what I mean? Like real shit happens.
It's life.
People do like have a hard time. Like we're not all pretending to like live perfect lives on Instagram.
Well, fucking no one's perfect, you know? That's
know
the
what I mean?
reality. It gets people to look inwardly. It gets people to look at themselves, look at their defects. Because everyone has them. But it's so easy to...
But not everyone wants to acknowledge them.
No, they want to acknowledge your defects, my defects. So that's the difference. So when you get people starting to look more inwardly, it's a beautiful thing. Like,
But trauma does make a beast out of you, like.
oh, 100%.
That's one thing that I've
100%. Had I have dealt with the trauma I suffered as a child the right way and sooner, maybe I might not have went down the path I did.
Because I find, people crumble, become like a fraction of themselves, but that's only one side of the story. The other side of the story is it makes a beast out of you. Like, it's like you say, you felt like you had no fear, but later down the line you realised you were full of it. I seen a clip with Mike Tyson talking about something similar, and he was like, everyone's afraid of me, but I'm actually the person that's most afraid of them. And that's why he's so, like, that's where the animosity comes from. And I can relate to that. Cause,
hugely so.
Like,
there's another one I seen of Mike Tyson where he cries before he fights. Because he's scared of the person he's about to turn into. Do you know what I mean? And you think, hold on.
And people don't
realise men that's ever walked the planet.
People don't.
You're scared of yourself, and
because that version of him is almost a trauma response.
Yeah, people don't realise what that is. It's, I'm sure there's some fancy term for it, but it's such a fucked up mentality to have, because
is that
it's
not the
like,
fancy way of putting it?
It seems pretty like medical.
I agree.
It seems pretty medical too.
No, I agree though. I was literally talking about this today with the therapist, you know.
There'll be a way to describe it, but it'll be unique to those type of individuals. People who've had like extreme levels of trauma and they haven't like curdled into a ball. They've had to become
it's protecting
a beast
yourself
to protect themselves.
Yeah, 100%. Do you know what? I would go as far as to say that everyone becomes that beast in their own variant. You know, for me, it was just how many masks can I create? So I'd be able to. I used to take pride in being able to walk in any room, no matter the type of people in that room, and by the time I left, even if I didn't know any of them, by the time I left, they'd all love me. But actually, what I was doing is never ever being myself. Well, we're still on this journey, basically working ourselves out at the age of 30 odds, right?
100%. I remember every day, and I'm still working out who I am. I've got a better idea of who I am. And I'm a bit more comfortable with, I'm not a bit more comfortable. I'm comfortable with who I am, and I'm grateful for who I am and where I am today and what I've been through. Like it says in the book, don't regret the past, wish to shut the door on it. But
exactly.
What would you say helped you ground yourself after everything that's happened? What would you say is
like the turning point for us to realise recovery was what was needed and for a change in my life?
Yeah, because, I mean, that's one side of it, but also if you become a beast just to protect yourself, you're not on the ground no more. You think you are who you believe you are, you know what I mean?
Oh, no, I fully did.
You become that person full time. So how did you ground yourself after becoming that person and having to walk away from being that person?
Probably goes back to, like you said there, you turn yourself into a beast to protect yourself. Yeah, I did. But it was the levels I was willing to protect myself on. Like, initially it was to protect myself from anyone ever trying to assault us or rape us. But then that I was using that beast to protect myself from getting hurt in a relationship, being offended off someone. So for a lot of years I could, like you just said, put one mask on, take the other one off.
So it goes from being a decision to your natural instinct sort of thing.
Yeah, like I spent so much time playing these two different characters, got to a point where I didn't know how to be any different. So when me violence and me rampages all started off, it was generally when I was out in the town, it was an alpha male thing. And look, I've got to be straight and brutally honest here. A lot of people don't talk about this subject or aren't willing to talk about this subject, but you've got to be. Because I hold myself accountable for what I've done. I used to be a loving, caring person in the household, and I'd go out, put that mask on and turn into the beast. And it got to the point where I didn't know how to be that loving, caring person in the household anymore.
Yeah.
That nasty person I was turned into outside of the house, I was bringing back into the house. And look, some of my ex-partners have experienced that. There's nothing I'm not going to sit here and try and justify it. There's always reasons why certain situations happen, but it's regardless about what they've done. It's only about what I've done, and what I've done should never have happened. It did. But even when I try to look at their actions, if I was to look at their actions were generally reactions to my initial actions. So the whole thing evolved around me and my behaviour. Yes, they might have acted in a certain way, but they acted like that because initially I acted like a prick in that instance. I was the root cause of it all. For a lot of years I used to say, nah, I wouldn't have done that if they didn't do that. They wouldn't have done that if I didn't do that in the first place. You know what I mean? I was never willing to be accountable, but do you know what it is? I'm not going to run away from it. I'm not going to shy of it. Yeah, I got sent to prison for domestic violence. It was a horrendous ordeal for her, which probably affects her for the rest of her life. I have no doubt. Just sorry, cut it. Nah, it fucking doesn't. Sorry's not going to do it. Even if I was to say sorry, she wouldn't accept it. Completely understand. You know what I mean? Yeah, I regret my actions and I'm deeply remorseful for it. But there's nothing I can do to change that. The only thing I can do to change that is make sure I don't repeat them actions moving forward. Make sure that no other person comes to that harm whilst being in a relationship with me. Yeah. And I know now that my current partner, my fiancée Amy, she always tells me that I make her feel safe and loved. So that to me,
yes, brother,
that's all. That's what's important.
Absolutely. And I think, look, at the end of the day, we live in a snowflake society as well. That's the other side of it. So people are quick to make snap judgments and have opinions on everything. But I think at the end of the day, it takes a bigger person to hold their hands up and admit their wrongdoings. Like if you took every single person on the planet and you said, right, just admit all your wrongdoings. It's like most people will just run the other direction because they don't want to hold their hands up and admit that they've made mistakes in their life, that they've been a victim of their own decision making. So that's my take on it. And I know everyone else will have different opinions and stuff like that, but my take's that,
Well, to your point, Mike, is that same thing about us as humans. You know, when you're signing an interview and someone says, tell me about your weaknesses, we all struggle to come up with
all
our
the superficial weaknesses.
Exactly. Because it's not instilled upon us to put our hands up and talk about all the bad things that we do or the bad things that we're, do you know what I mean?
Should be, though.
Oh, it's
200% should be.
Do you know what I mean?
Because it makes you see what's real and what's not.
You can't move past them. If you hold these things, this is part of our recovery journey. Dom and I have both completed the 12 steps of recovery, and there's a fundamental part of it, which is you need to create a very in-depth inventory of specific areas of things you've done. Yeah, and it's incredibly tough. But it's supposed to be. Yeah. And the release you get, I speak for myself, it's the weight coming off your shoulders. When you write down on paper and then vocalize with someone else all of the fucked up shit you've done throughout your life.
Well, what impresses me the most is the level of honesty. So I've noticed when people come out of recovery, the transparency, the honesty, it's second to none. Every single recovered addict that I've seen, heard about, witnessed, met, they're so honest about their flaws. And I don't know if it's the 12-step program. I don't know if it's just realizing you've made mistakes in life or what, but they're just so honest. And more people need that level of honesty.
Oh, I agree. I agree completely. I was saying to someone the other day, I think a lot of people could do with rehab. Not maybe specifically for a substance, but having that 28 days taken out of society to just reset and readjust, that would be valuable to most people, And I think, but what you were saying about that honesty. Well, I don't know about you, but for me, that was fucking liberating. I was like, I was just riding off that at the beginning. It was like, I can't lie about anything. I haven't got to lie. So I was probably being too honest, you know, and people are like, fuck, you're telling me a lot of shit right now, like a lot of heavy shit. At least try and sugarcoat some of it.
I don't know. Yeah. I don't know, you know, like I was saying this to Alex Kitchen. I was saying like, when you talk about the raw part of your story, you judge yourself before other people do. Do you know what I mean? You judge yourself before other people do. Yes. So you're like, oh shit, what'll happen if I say this? What'll happen if I say that? But what you don't see, and it's negativity bias, what you don't see is how many people that could inspire.
Yes.
Yeah. No,
so you're focused on like how you'll perceive yourself. But what about the people that could take inspiration from that and then makes them a better person? You're probably not going to focus on them in the moment. You don't know how influential that could be for that person. You never know what it could do.
I think that's why it's influential though.
Yeah.
Because if you're thinking about having an impact on someone specifically, chances are you're going to miss the mark. But this just goes back to what I was saying to you earlier, and I've said to you countless times. The impact you have is based on you being authentically you. Because there's going to be a lot of people listening to this who may be on similar paths that you've been on in the past and are terrified to be honest and hold their hands up. But you've sat here, been incredibly honest, said some really powerful stuff. And I've seen over the last 8 months how you've turned into the person you've been. And what we haven't spoke about yet is along your recovery journey, what you're doing now to keep you sober. Because I know that the levels you go to and the involvement you have in certain groups to not just keep yourself sober, but you're also now helping others stay sober.
The only way I can keep myself well is by helping others get well. I've got to live life not in self. Because if I sit too long thinking about myself, that's when things go wrong.
Yeah.
Because I'll start trying to control my life again. Like, I'm not ashamed to admit right now, like when I say I don't live life on my will no more, I live it on God's. I get up every morning, I meditate and I pray. I hand myself over. I'm not saying I believe in a higher power of my own understanding, so I never have to worry about a mortgage payment again. I've got to put the work in. But from myself, and you'll relate to this yourself, addicts, the only way we can stay clean and sober is by being in fit spiritual condition. And the only way you can be in fit spiritual condition is by staying connected to a higher power, and how you do that is by not being a selfish prick and do what you can for others. So that's the attitude I've had coming into this. When I first got asked a few months back about it, I was I taught myself out of it within 30 seconds. Hell no. No way on earth am I doing this. But that's because I was thinking about me. And I was thinking about what people will think of me. And how am I going to be perceived, and what's this going to do for my image. Well, the harsh truth is, Dom, you're not the most important person in the world, and no one really cares about your image. Do you know what I mean? So I'm not here to change people's opinions of me. I'm here in the hope that at least one person gets something from this. And if one person's got something from this, then I've done my job. If I can help one person, that's fine. If I sat in a room of 100 people and spoke about my experience and one person got something from it, I've achieved what I set out to do, and that's just help others. It's the only way you can stay clean and sober.
Yeah, the other side of it as well, though, is if you play silly games, you get silly prizes. Yeah. There's a lot of people in society who do commit crimes, do go down the wrong path, and have a laugh and have a joke about it. But if you play silly games, you get silly prizes. So it's actually enlightening for them to hear what it can do to your life, not just your life, your family, like the people around you, what it can do, how much it can affect them, how much damage it can do to them. I think it's a slap in the face if you think you're some big lad, all clever because you're doing, dumb shit. And then you hear somebody who's been there, done it, got a t-shirt, come out the other end. And the message that you have generally is that's not the way to go about it. It's not the way to live. So for them to hear that message, I think actually is really important. Because for me personally, if there was times in my life if I didn't hear a message like that, I would have continued,
Yeah.
like going down the wrong path. Do you know what I mean? Because everything influences you. Your music, your
100%.
culture, where you live, where you're from, who you're around.
No, 100%. I agree with that, because there's one thing I've always, people might laugh and think this sounds daft, but now as a dad, myself, because I'm a dad now, I've got a 7-year-old son who's absolutely amazing. I've got an 8-year-old stepson.
Yeah, little legends.
And I do have a 6-year-old son that I don't have access to through my actions and behaviours. But I know he's fit, he's happy and he's healthy, so I'll let him live his life. I'm not going to leave him out and acknowledge that he doesn't exist, because he does. But yeah, but now being a dad, I sound daft saying this. I understand, a film with the 18 on, watching it at 12, you're like, no, you're not meant to. I completely understand that now as a dad, because films had a part to play. So when I was struggling with no father figure and looking for things to do, the films I was constantly watching, like Rise of the Foot Soldier and stuff like that, I was attracted to that lifestyle.
Yeah.
I was attracted to designer clothes, violence and cocaine at the age of 12 and 13 by the films I was watching. So you are well and truly like influenced by what you listen to, what you do, and what
You're a product of your environment.
Yeah.
You get sucked in. It's crazy though, like for me growing up, the only thing that stopped us going down the wrong path was probably like the fact that my mum was so religious, and
Your mum's amazing, man.
yeah, my mum's like a very deep spiritual person, very connected to God. Knowing that I would have to answer to her, regardless of what I've done, what choices and decisions I've made, knowing that I'd have to answer to her in some way was what kept me away from that sort of life. But I think it's thin ice, I think it's thin ice. I think it's thin ice how quickly things can go left.
Of course.
I don't think people realise how quickly things can go left. I think once you become an addict, what else are you going to experience when you're an addict? Like, you will have very...
Well, the whole process of addiction is, it's a disease, and it manifests when you're younger. It manifests in slightly different ways. It's different for everyone, but there tends to be some correlation between early teenage years. Quite often, some reaction to some trauma that's happened to you, and that pretty much dictates the path you go down.
Yeah,
Or you almost don't have a choice in that.
Do you feel like mental health makes it worse? Because obviously with your ADHD, I imagine that obviously made it way more challenging. Yeah.
I mean, it was so when I used to do cocaine, it used to have a completely different effect on me than it would to other people. That used to quiet my head down. That was when I wouldn't say I ever had fucking clarity when I was on it, but my head was quiet. There was none of the noise. So that was actually my way of numbing life. It allowed me to numb life. It allowed me to remove myself from the problems, which were a byproduct of my actions and a byproduct of my substance abuse. But it did have a profound effect. But also, I got a very late diagnosis. I only got diagnosed in the last 2 years. And I remember crying to my sister about it would have been about 2.5 years ago. She's saying, "What's wrong with me? Like, why am I not normal? Why am I different?" Because I couldn't work it out. The way I reacted to situations differently. The way I couldn't remove this drug from my life. So when I got that diagnosis, it made a lot of things make sense. But then when I lost my active addiction and I lost my main coping mechanism, it's one of the key things we talk about, right? When you're in your active addiction, the antidote you have for your disease is the wrong antidote. So it's about finding a healthier antidote. That was really tough because suddenly I couldn't quieten my head. I had to find ways to do that. Now we have ways that we manage that. A lot of them very similar. We have our daily routines, fitness, the gym. The gym. You imagine you're the same, bro. I mean, this guy's a beast in the gym. But but for me, I get that dopamine rush. I feel my pupils dilate when I'm in the gym, and I look around, everyone's struggling, I'm smiling my head off. I love that, and it's the suffering a bit. But yeah, 100%.
Were you ever diagnosed with anything?
No, never officially diagnosed. When I got released from one of my previous prison sentences, I was referred to a forensic psychologist for split personality disorder because of the change in us.
I'd imagine personality disorders would be on the spectrum, like when you've been through shit like that. It was one of the, so I don't know which episode it was, but we were talking about a time when I was like sectioned, and the first thing to look at when you have trauma at that level is personality disorders, because I think we'll probably take for granted how much our personality like actually influences our choices and decisions and stuff like that. But if you when you learn a little bit more about it, like BPD, bipolar, these type of diagnoses, a lot of it's just coming out the other end of like pretty fucked up childhood experiences, shit that stayed with you, and it's definitely interesting how people deal with it, like, but most of the time people don't actually talk about it because it's not something that many people understand, to be honest.
I think people think they're going to get judged by talking about it. You know,
absolutely.
I think, you know, I think we're all not to blame, but we're all guilty of that. But I think one of the things this podcast has taught me, that it's incredibly liberating talking about these things, but also the feedback you get, it has an impact on people. And like you say, there's going to be someone off the back of this that they might not reach out, but they might speak to their partner. Yeah. They might go and see a doctor. Yeah, that's the whole point.
It's just, we live in a funny world. Everything's taboo. You know what I mean? Yeah. Everything that is heavy and serious,
it's not part of the mainstream.
It always has that ability to turn like really taboo. Like even like my favorite movie, one of my favorite movies is The Joker. I think The Joker 2 kind of ruined it a little bit, but The Joker's one of
me. You had to get that in there, didn't you?
Why, are you not into music, Mike?
Huh?
Are you not into musicals, Mike?
Oh, he's a massive Lady Gaga fan.
he's a Swiftie.
Yeah, is that right, Mike? You heard it here first.
It's one of my favorite movies, The Joker. Obviously, wasn't feeling the second one, like, but say that movie, right? People love that movie, but what I find interesting is the actual character that's being played. You've got someone who, you know, he's got a really serious mental health problem. He's went off the rails. He's like killed people, but then he becomes a hero for doing that.
Yeah.
Now, people like us, when we've been through shit, it makes us turn into animals, like the most primal version of ourselves. We're not celebrated for it. You're not. There's no Joker movie for
I've
you.
never had a round of applause.
Do you know what I mean? You ain't getting a round of applause.
Straight to the
People
gulag,
are going to be running the streets with clown masks on, celebrating you, you know? So that, to me, is what I find most interesting, because I had to detach. From this idea in my head that I was this crazy person because of that experience, being in hospital. I had to detach from that, because if that's all I am, that's all I believe I am, and it's all people believe I am, that's all I become. So I had to detach from it massively. And I think mental health, it's a tough one for people to talk about, because I literally done a binge on YouTube everywhere trying to find places where people were talking about my diagnosis, because I was just trying to figure out what was going on, learn more about it. Couldn't find anything that I related to. There'd be like women on YouTube, like middle-aged white women, like I get what she's saying. I get what she's saying, but I can't relate on a personal level, because I know she's never had
experienced it.
Yeah, she's never been through that. Like, she's not been in the trenches. She's not been through any of those life experiences.
I agree.
So you end up figuring it out for yourself. And I think you trauma bond as well with people. So people like that you meet who are fucked in the head, you relate to them more than people who aren't.
Yeah,
Yeah,
man.
because they've been through what you've been through.
You can look someone in the eye and see that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course you can.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like what you were just saying there, like when you were listening to that one, but you couldn't relate. It's like, I get that so much because when it come to light about the sexual abuse and the rape when I was 17, and my mum, and I told my mum about it, she referred us for therapy because I was suffering from rape trauma syndrome. Little did I know I was suffering from addiction at the time as well. So going to therapy was never going to fix the addiction because it doesn't work. But even when I was going to therapy for that, it wasn't working because I knew that therapists in front of us hadn't been through what I'd been through. Look, take me hat off you. You've been to university and you've studied hard and you've got where you've got, but you've got no experience, so you can't relate to us. And for me, when I was trying to talk about it, and you got that person sat across the room going, yeah, I completely understand, I know how you feel. No, you fucking don't.
Yes.
You don't. Do you know what I mean? Like,
And
I went through some terrible things as a child, and it's caused me to do some terrible fucking actions. And you're getting me to do, like, for me, it was just ridiculous exercises to try and work out how my brain worked. Like,
did they get the sandpit out?
No, I had this one.
How about that?
There was an orange apple and pear on the table. There was no orange apple and pear on the table there. They were like, there's an orange apple and pear on the table.
Yeah.
Pick one. I went, there's no orange apple and pear there. She was like, just for this exercise, think there's an orange apple and pear on the table, choose one. I want to love the banana. She went, there's no banana. I went, there's no orange apple and fucking pear. So stop thinking this, I'm crazy. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
No, I think. Look, I think on that note,
People get. Yeah.
but I think that's the point of what we're doing. You know, we don't have necessarily degrees in any of this, but what I do know is we've been through this trauma. We've recovered, all three of us, in our own ways. So I think if you are listening to this and you are suffering in any way, look, reach out. We'll be able to help in some way or another, and it's a part of what we do. And also, there's not a selfless element to it that keeps us healthy, that keeps us sober, keeps our heads straight. So it's what we're here for. You know, we're building a community. You know, you look at the friendship group we've built over the last 8 months. Everyone, completely different points of life.
Well, some people might never ever talk about these things, like, unless they're given the opportunity to do so. So I think that's why what we're doing is like so important in itself, just for that reason alone. But it's powerful stuff because I think no one tells the truth about any of this stuff, where it comes from, how it's.
It's all completely a lot of it's subjective as well, and I think for me, you know, today I was asked, have I been medicated to my ADHD? I said, fuck no. That's me. That's part of me. Yeah, it has areas I need to manage, but it also allows me to hyper-focus for long periods of time. It allows me to retain huge amounts of information. Does it allow me to zone out halfway through a conversation where someone's talking and try my best to try and fit the conversation back together? Yeah. Does it have other areas that I struggle with? Yes. But it's me. So if you have something is different to what society deem as normal, which doesn't fucking exist, by the way. But if you have some element of that in you, get excited by it. Yeah. Embrace it. Look to understand it. And if you can't find anything directly in front of you or through the NHS or the generic routes you go down, start looking at alternative options. There are people out there that can help and will help. And sometimes you just need a list of someone to go, yeah, I've done that as well. I've done a lot of fucked up shit. Oh, fuck, so is that guy. Because that's when we go to the meetings, right?
Yeah, the most important thing, I think, if you suffer trauma or you're suffering from mental health or addiction or whatever it is, just knowing you're not alone. Because unless you talk about it, you're not talking to people, you do think you're alone. Do you know what I mean? For years I thought, why am I like this? Like, no one else seems like this, but that's because no one talks. So I could be sat here in my own head thinking, I'm the only one like this. Yeah. But all you guys could be exactly the same, but because people aren't talking about it, you don't know.
Exactly.
I think everyone's just too cool for school. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Everyone's too cool for school. Like, everyone wants to pretend like they've got nothing going on. Everyone wants to pretend like they don't have hard days. And when they do, they want to pretend like it's no big deal. But I think that's where, you know, some people might just have rose-tinted glasses on, you know? Some people do have rose-tinted glasses on. They don't realize that
It's easier that way.
the human experience is like, it's vast. Like, you're gonna go through shit. You know what I mean? You're gonna go through stuff, and how you respond to it is how you respond to it. But the chances are, there's gonna be something there. It might be so mild, like not everyone has like some like serious diagnosis that affects their life, turns it upside down. It's not the case. But we said it on one of our episodes, anxiety is a price you pay just for being human.
Facts.
Like it's a mild level, a mild level of anxiety is literally the price you pay just for being human. Because imagine your brain is able to think about tomorrow. Tomorrow hasn't happened yet. That in itself makes you a little bit like anxious.
It creates fear.
Yeah.
It's a fear of the unknown.
But take that and then take 5 things going wrong in your life. That anxiety now spirals out of control into something way more serious. So all of these people pretending that they don't have anything going on, I've got no anxiety, I've got no depression, I've got no bipolar, I've got no ADHD. Like, keep pretending, but I know there's something there if you actually just stopped.
Of course.
Like, stop the train and reflect on how you deal with life. Reflect on how you deal with situations. And are you showing up as the best version of yourself? For most people, the answer to that question is no. And they just ignore the fact that there is something there that they need to pay attention to. Because I've done this for 5 years. I got diagnosed with bipolar in 2017, ignored it for 5 years, and they came back and bit me in the arse. Do you know what I mean? So it's when you do feel like there's something not quite there, you do have to pay attention to it. And you do have to talk about it, and you do have to be honest about it. So
I relate to that massively. Like when he says that he got diagnosed and he ignored it. I knew from the age of 19 that I was an addict. I went to my first ever fellowship, so we'll say, to address it, but wasn't ready to accept it, or wasn't, like you say, too cool for school. I'm not admitting that.
Yeah.
I'm not admitting at 19 years old I can't drink and party no more. Fuck that.
yeah,
Next 10 years was a miserable 10 years. I had so many good opportunities and lost them.
Yeah.
At one point I had a promising Muay Thai potential career. I'm not saying I would have been world champion or anything like that, but I started training. I'd been training from a young age, and my coach, who's just passed away, bless him, John Mills, we were in talks about going to Italy and fighting in a European Championship. I didn't even know about this until I'd already fucked my chance up by getting myself sent to prison. So that went down the pan.
I want to ask a question. If there was an addict that was listening, what would your advice be?
Don't live in suffering anymore. Don't be scared to admit that you need help, because no one wants to admit that they're fucked and they need help. Do you know what I mean? I'm speaking personally from a male point of view for me, admitting that I was weak, that this tiny bag of white powder had control of me and I was powerless to it. I couldn't admit that. Who the hell wants to admit they're weak? But the irony is, in admitting you've got that weakness is your first little victory to actually defeating that illness.
I love that.
Do you know what I mean?
I love that.
It's ironic, but admitting you need help is your first step towards the victory of the battle of addiction.
Don, mate, I can honestly say this has been such a pleasure having you on, brother. You've done incredibly well. You should be really proud of yourself.
No, thank you, appreciate
And
that.
I think that was a powerful message. Nice one, guys.
It's
Great one.
been one of my favourite talks. Appreciate it.
100%.
Appreciate it.
No, thank you
Nice
for having
one,
us.
man.
Sweet.